Hello again, everyone. This is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage, and I am making the video, I guess it's the next installment, if you will, of Motor Series as part of the restoration of my Singer 15-91. And it sounds like a broken record to say it, but I think this machine deserves it. It is, in my personal opinion, you all may have different favorites when it comes to power, but when you consider domestic sewing machines, okay, home sewing machines from the vintage era, not counting industrials, this is the most powerful domestic sewing machine ever made, in my opinion. And this is because it's a Singer 15. Any Singer 15 is one of the most powerful sewing machines ever built. And this one is the 1591, so it has the potted motor, what Singer, I believe, called direct feed or direct drive. We call it the potted motor, again, because some people believe it looks like a little pot on the back. To me, it looks like a box, but whatever. So I had mentioned to you all, I went back, I was trying to see if I had made a video where I take the motor off, and I couldn't find one, or if I did. Maybe nothing doesn't hurt to make another one, since I have it here. Many of you ask sometimes for me to make a certain type of video. Keep in mind that I am not a collector, and so my machines, once they go through their overhaul or restoration, I find them new homes, and so I can't make a video for you if I don't have it. And of course, you wouldn't know that necessarily. But now, by the way, the first step to removing the potted motor, and I mentioned in the earlier video, if you're going to attempt this, you definitely want patience, because it's going to take a while. This is why I have to charge so much more for particularly the potted motor designs. The slanted version of the direct motor that Singer would later use in the 301s and all of their Slantomatics, it's much simpler to both remove and service. So it doesn't really cost more in labor or the prices I charge to people when I service that motor. No more than really a belted motor when you get down to it, maybe a little bit more. But this one, oh yes. Okay, and as always, it is always wise to mention that before you try to take off anything on your machine, unplug it. In fact, my machines are unplugged the whole time that I'm restoring them. The only time they get plugged in is if I'm when I first get it, if I'm going to gently test to see if it moves or sews, right? And then I don't plug it in, I unplug it, and it doesn't get plugged in again until I'm done with the overhaul and I go to test it for stitching. So unplug your machine, just unplug it and leave it unplugged. Just do it. And it sounds silly. It's like, well, of course you would. You know what? People are absent-minded. Sometimes they forget. So sometimes it makes sense to repeat ourselves and to just repeat things over when they're that important. So and that would be true on any electrical appliance you work on. Anyway, you saw me just squirt a little drop of that sewing machine oil, and I'm going to see if this will come off. Pushing in. Oh, yeah, there it went. And this, of course, is the set screw. Those of you who are new to sewing machines, I always want to be careful I don't make too many assumptions. There's even a little piece of, I don't know if that's thread or cloth or what it is. And I want to turn this, and of course, this is my clutch knob, and there's the stop washer on the back, and this generation of machine has a washer. I mean, these are really big honking washers, to use a New York term. This is just a big old washer, right? But I love them because they don't break, right? You break this, you've really been abusing your machine. Okay, so we'll just get those out of the way. Make sure, by the way, if you loosened your set screw a little too much, snug it back down. You have to super tighten it. Just make sure it doesn't go anywhere, okay? We're going to take it out later and clean it. I've shown that on a number of videos before, but that's not the purpose of this video today. So I'm going to pull, and like most of the time, most Singer hand wheels will come off. Easy peasy, thankfully. Now you'll see a bunch of old grease here, and oh boy, that's really overdue, right? Most of them are. It's a testament to the engineering that they still run in spite of not getting the maintenance they were designed for. But we're going to fix that with this one. And like every one of these I've ever seen, it's not impossible to see one, but I see a Textilite gear that's in great shape. Kudos to General Electric for whoever those people were back in the day that invented this material, because it's incredible. I think I've talked about Textilite before. Anyway, of course, this is the gear that you have on the hand wheel for a potted motor machine. If this was not a direct drive or a potted motor machine, you wouldn't have this gear here. What you would have is a groove that would hold the belt that would connect to the rear mounted motor. So again, for those of you who are unfamiliar, now what do you see here? You see some area for grease, but that's not where the grease is actually going to be installed. The grease ports, or the grease tanks as I like to call them, I don't know what Singer called them officially, I'll have to go and look in the manual. These are upside down. So if you really need, I find that I need to take this off in order to properly service this, right? Plus it makes it easier to clean. People have different methods for how they do this, but I'll show you what mine typically can be. It depends on the condition of the motor. And here you see where the hand wheel was. It was hiding. You'll notice there's just dust and grime. No big deal. It's to be expected. Now this is a good time also to go ahead and take off your oh boy, your old bobbin tire. I could literally see it. Sometimes you have to take it off and bend it to see the cracks, but not on this one. Look at this, guys. You can see all the I think you can see it. Yeah, you see all the cracks from the oxidizing. It's a dry rotted piece of rubber, and I don't know if this is the original, but it's pretty old because it says Semanco on it. That stood for Singer Manufacturing Company. So this was sold by Singer. Today you would get a generic rubber tire. Most of them are made in Taiwan or China, and they're very inexpensive. You can get them, so don't worry. You don't need to try to keep using the old tire. I would not. Now, what do you see now? Let's zoom in. I'm going to show you that remarkable worm gear, right? Let's change the height here a little bit. I'm going to give you guys a slightly different angle because I want you to see this. Zoom in some more and you can see it right here. That's the worm gear that plays with the Textilite gear on the hand wheel. Now, before you begin to start loosening these two giant bolts, I'm going to see if I can get this. Sorry about that. Let's get this back lowered because I want to get you the right angle. Because I've got this camera over my knee and I want to make sure you can see this so that I don't smack into the camera too much. Sorry, I do my best. Don't always succeed. Now, you'll see two screws in the back. Those are mounting screws. The whole motor mounts to the drive or to the body of the machine, and the drive shaft comes right through. There's like a tunnel for it. But before we start loosening these, when these get loosened, these bolts come off, then the machine, the motor then comes off of the drive shaft. So you have to turn it upside down. But remember, there's a wire here. There's a cord that goes from the motor to the terminal down here. It'll help. You can see where I'm pointing if I move the camera. It's going to come down here. You don't want to stress or punish your wires, right? You want to be gentle with your motor. Don't drop it. Don't smack it around. This is about 70 years old. Show some respect, Now, so you want to prepare for this. One of the first things that you can do is you can, again, make sure that your motor, that there is nothing plugged into your machine, okay? Not only is your cord not plugged into the wall or an outlet, you don't have any electrical cords here. There is no power. Don't. First thing I want to do is I want to go in here. I'm gonna have to change the height again because I'm moving around the machine, but I want you to see what I'm doing. It's not very helpful, I know, if you can't see. So the terminal has a screw that mounts the terminal to the body of the machine. So we're going to take that off. Normally it's not a big deal. I don't have the right screwdriver tip. Having the right screwdriver size, and by the way, you guys have seen this in my tools video. This is a set of screwdriver tips. It has both a handle, an extension, and a little ratchet. And I got this, there are different brands. This one is, Chapman. People buy these for all sorts of purposes. Some people have them. If you were a gun owner, you might have one because when people take guns apart to clean and oil them, they often use something like this. But regardless what brand you use, make sure you use some that are like this. Because unlike a traditional screwdriver, they're not tapered and they are less likely, although it's not impossible, less likely to strip your screws. Stripping a screw can give you a really bad day. Okay, so I'm going to push in. And there it comes. Usually it's not too much of a problem on this particular screw. And once I get that out, I will show you. Okay, that nice long steel bolt that holds it in place. We'll just put that in a tray or something where you don't lose it. Losing parts is not fun when you go to put things back together. Now, this of course is the terminal, and I'm very carefully, very slowly and gently, I'm going to come around because there's a space. You can see where my finger is here. There's a space behind this little, whatever that is, that lets this is where the cords slip in behind, you know, and of course they're attached to the terminal here. And you can see this, right? You see the terminal, and the cords are not in terrible shape. They're dirty. Sometimes they will crumble in your hands, right? They can be, these are very old, so you want to be gentle. You have to decide, you know, am I keeping these or am I replacing them? Now, the first thing I want to do is figure out which one is the light and which one is the motor. What you see here, because I can literally come up behind here, and I've got the cord that goes to the light fixture, and as I follow it down with my thumb and finger, it comes here, right? So I've got one on the yellow and one on the red I need to take off. Excuse me, no, that's not what I want to do. The light fixture I'm going to leave in, but I may have to take these off anyway. So the other cord right here, that is my motor cords coming right out of the body of the motor. So that has one end going to the red, one wire from that cord going to the red, and of course I have to take off the light anyway because the light is on top of my motor wire because they stack. Okay, so now I'm going to take out, in fact it even has a little red end, but you can't always count on that because sometimes people have already taken those out, and I need a small tool to lift it so I don't yank on it too badly. That would not be cool. Let's see if I can do it with this tiny little screwdriver, the little flat screwdriver here. And I just want, like I say, this may have been sitting here for decades and decades. So be gentle. Don't go smacking stuff around like it's a brand new wire. Now, I'm going to very gently lift this off of the terminal, or the pin as they call them, 3-pin. And the pins are made so beautifully. They're made of brass. They have brass washers. Okay, now I've got one of the wires to the motor off. The other is going to connect to the center, right? The center terminal. So I'm going to take this little screw and I'm going to do the same with my little screwdriver here. Just try to lift it up so I don't, you know, traumatize it, because I don't want to break it necessarily. Remember what I was saying about having patience when you're overhauling a potted motor? I wasn't kidding. Although, you know, all Singer motors have connections to these terminals. Most of them do. But, again, take your time. Don't be in a hurry. Being in a hurry is not a good recipe for success with anything that is detailed like overhauling a sewing machine. and that definitely applies to uh, motors particularly. And it's just being a little fussy the way the wire end is designed. But you can see it's about to pop off here. I think you can see it. Let's see. There it comes. Now, I'm going to put this is, I believe, the positive wire from my light fixture. I'm going to put it back on the terminal because I don't need to take it off. It's not really an issue here. And again, if I want to, I'm going to leave it here on the terminal. So all I need to do is simply put that little screw nut, acorn nut, whatever you want to call it, back on there. Okay. So my light fixture is still where it needs to be. And if I don't want to lose this, I can actually just put this back on here again. Just I don't have to worry about where I put it because it's where it will eventually go back. You may decide not to do that, but it just makes my life easier. You may think otherwise. Okay, now, what are you looking at? You're looking at the main wire going into that potted motor. Now, the covering, or the jacketing, I think it's called, on the two wires that help form the cord is in good shape. It's actually not dry rotted, which is surprising. Now, so the wire to the motor has now been freed from the terminal. Okay. What this means is that when you go to take it off of the body of the machine, you're not going to be tugging on and stressing the terminal or the wire. The next move in this little exercise is to take off these bolts. Sometimes the bolts will loosen for you, and sometimes they will fight you. I have no idea what these will do. I am about to find out. Sometimes I use my handle, and sometimes I use the ratchet, depending on how fussy these want to be. And I want to make sure, I'm just going to test this. I'm trying to remember which one of my screwdriver tips is the best candidate to fit. Let's see here. The least amount of slack or play that I have between my screwdriver tip and my bolt, the better chance I'm going to have of getting this off here with success and without destroying my bolts. And that one fits. I like that. So I'm going to push. Got to hold the machine. It's not ready to come off. Let's try the other one. And it's being stubborn. I like it when you guys see me having to deal with this because it hopefully will give you confidence that you can do it. So now I'm going to take the shaft of my screwdriver tip. I'm going to put it in the ratchet. Sometimes I get more torque with this little ratchet, and I kind of like it. Don't know why, but it seems to sometimes work when just turning on the screwdriver handle won't. Okay, I've got this seated. Slowly, you have to keep pushing in. You don't want to strip, and as long as you can feel some movement, take your time. Right? Slowly. Remember, these bolts may not have. This motor may never have come off the main body of the machine since, what is it, 1950? Or I'll have to double check my serial number here. But just assume that it's been on there a long time. So it's understandable why it might not want to come off right away. And we'll go to the other one, see what it does. Sometimes it's just as fussy. This one wasn't. This one was easier to get off, so you just never know. Now, you want to take both of these off kind of at the same time. You just want to loosen them, and now they're loosening out a lot better. And like I said, if you don't have a set of these screwdriver tips, You can try a traditional screwdriver, guys. Here's one. But again, notice, and I've talked about this in the tools video, see how the thing tapers all the way to the edge? Whereas this one, these screwdriver tips do not. They fit more flush into the straight head of the screw or the bolt. This is really worth investing in if you're going to do this type of work. Yeah, a regular screwdriver might work, but you have a really good chance of stripping even these very high quality steel screws. And if you do, again, you can have a really bad day if you strip these screws. So you want to avoid that at any cost, as much as possible. Okay. Now, these are getting looser, and eventually, okay, now I'm going to start holding on to this, right? You don't want it to fall. You do not want your motor to fall. Now, when these screws come off, the motor is going to be ready to remove, and it needs to sit someplace. So, there are different ways to go about this, and I'll show you. You can sit it onto the table surface or the workbench, whatever you've got that you're working on. You can also set up. I've got like a little Kleenex box. It needs to be strong enough, and then I can even add a little more height here with an old towel, so that when it comes off, I have a place to put it. Some people who have left the motor wire attached to the terminal, they'll just sort of take the motor off and turn it upside down and it'll be still wired. I find this is a lot easier. I have more options when I undo the wire here. Okay, so now I will go back and continue loosening. Oh, hold the motor. I have to remember to take the advice I'm giving you guys. But remember, I normally do this when I'm not making a video. So multitasking is always distracting, I think. And where'd it go? Oh, there it is. One of them already came off. Sometimes the motor housing is a little stuck because it has old grease, but you still got to be ready for it to fall off. Don't assume that it's going to stick on there, because if you do, well, you may have a surprise you won't like, and the motor will fall and you'll be very unhappy. So here's one of them. Again, put it in a place where you won't lose it. And then the other, just pull out. Here it comes. And again, they're wonderful quality steel. They're not stripped. I will put a little bit of oil on them when they go back in, just to future-proof it, so I don't have to deal with this anymore. Now, you've got a hold of your motor, and notice I'm going to just gently tug and wiggle it, and sure enough, it comes right off of the drive shaft. That's what it looks like on the back. And you can see here are the two holes where the big screws came out. What these screws up here are for, I don't know. They don't actually go to anything, but I have no idea what those are for. Now, let's show you guys the inside. There you go. There's that worm gear, that amazing gear. Lots of old black grease in there, but that'll come out. We'll get that out. We'll get it cleaned up while we have it off, get all the dust out of there. Doesn't really affect the operation of the motor, but you want your machine to be clean. Remember, you're overhauling it. Now's a good time. Now, remember those grease tanks I was telling you about, what I call grease tanks? Here they are. It's a lot easier to service these when they're right side up. Now, so what do I want to do? I want this thing to be right side up. Because I don't have the wires to deal with in the terminal, I don't have to lay it right next to the body of the machine, and I actually don't necessarily need this little box and towel. You will if you don't take the wires off, but I like taking the wires off. It just makes life easier. Now, one thing you will want to do when you're working on this is you're going to want it to be upright, okay? And the motor is kind of a weird shape. So I'm going to move the machine body like that. You can see all the little dust and dirt. That'll all clean up. All of this here will clean up well. And we can get there because we're not having to poke around behind the motor. Now, oh, by the way, here's the bottom. There's where I took that bottom motor brush out. So I will put it back in, make sure it's lined up right, put it right back in there, and then I will put my brush cap back on. And again, I'm doing this for now just so I don't want to ever get oil or grease in this brush little silo, this little area that the brush housing goes into. You do not want grease or oil in there at all. And this is the best way to protect, you don't have to worry about goofing up and getting some in there because you're going to have it sealed. Okay, we'll go back to these when we talk about cleaning in a minute. The space that the brush sits on. Okay, so now we've got this area. We have access to the grease tanks. So if we got the motor upside down, you can see here's the worm gear, the grease tanks, and the grease wicks, which are in here, we'll talk about. These we'll be able to access them when the motor's upside down, but this is really the best place to access the grease wicks. So that is getting the motor, the potted motor, off. And I just made, what did I do? I just made a 26-minute video talking about the brushes and getting the motor off. Okay, I could have taken the motor off slightly faster if I wasn't making the video, but not much. It is what it is. So that much time has been spent to get it off. And then in the next video, we'll talk about accessing the motor to be able to take a look. And we're going to be getting out some of that, all of that old nasty grease. We're going to be putting in new grease wicks, and I'll show you guys how to do that the next video. But thank you for watching. Some of you have machines with potted motors. Some of you have been thinking about them, and there's sometimes a lot of mystery about them, but they are beautifully made. But again, servicing them just takes longer. So if you have one and you want to practice servicing it, do not be in a hurry, and hopefully it'll go well for you. But if you get in a hurry, it probably will not go well, and that's been my experience in any machine restoration procedure that I have. Take your time, do it right. Don't be in a hurry. Be patient. Be patient with yourself if you're new to it, and hopefully you will be successful. Thanks for watching, everyone. I so appreciate it, and if you would, subscribe to my channel if you like. I have a ton of viewers, but not that many subscribers, and I guess because I never mention it. I never ask people to subscribe. But if you do, you can always click on the little bell symbol and let you know when a new video is posted to the channel. Thank you all for supporting the channel, and we will see you next time.